And I finally got up. And trying to fix myself something to eat. The Parkinsonian shake is more pronounced on an empty stomach. So I'm just going to have a bagel for right now. A plain bagel because Raj didn't get me the onion or the everything. So and I'm going to make myself a cup of coffee. This is my favorite shirt. The neck is all stretched out, but it's still my favorite. It's the most comfortable shirt. I always ask God to bless my food. Kom hier, Jesus, sein Sie Gast und segne, was du uns beschert hast. Amen. Bagel. That sucker is hot. I'm doing everything on the fly, so please forgive me this morning. I'm not afraid, but I am, to tell you the truth, a little bit rattled over that thing that wrote something in my prescription diary. And for those of you who are elderly or take different medications for different modalities, morbidities, you have to write down the time and the prescription, and the efficacy is a way to stay out of the hospital. Because if you don't, you're going to lose track, and then you're going to overdose or underdose, and that's a problem. The other thing about BP medicine is that if you take it and your BP is actually low at the time, taking blood pressure medicine when your BP is low will cause what's called paradoxical hypertension. Because your body needs a certain amount of blood pressure to function. And if you take your medicine and it goes too low, then you can have fainting and other problems. The news was so bad last night, I couldn't sleep. So I finally got to bed at 7 a.m. And people will say, Pop, why do you watch the news? Because there's nothing you can do about it. I watch the news so I can be prepared. I watch very credible channels like Redacted and Poplar Report, Steve Poplar's channel. And Canadian Prepper, Nate, has got an excellent channel. He's a very brilliant young man. And, oh gosh, let me see. Luis Santiago, Grand Supreme News, and Real GS News. I love the coffee cup that Nate got me because it's got this strainer in it, so you can pour the coffee and then you can let it steep just like tea and let it get stronger. So I try and use the side of me that struggles along with the Parkinsonian syndrome. Excuse me. And that way, it has a way of calming it, even though it shakes a little bit when I pour the water over the coffee, and it takes a little bit more concentration. It's better than just leaving it alone and letting it occur. So like I said, I apologize. I'm doing everything on the fly. And went to bed at 7 a.m. and woke up around noon to take my medicine. And something had written in my journal. Something had written a message about stay out of traffic or something. I'm wondering if that's a message about all of these people going down to Texas, because I really do think that's a trap. And the reason that I think it's a trap is because they're arguing over this one strip of the Rio Grande that they put concertina wire, razor wire. And yet, if you go down the river just a little bit, there's a gate where they could go right through the border at the gate. And they say there's 20 checkpoints along the river that people can go through. And Mr. Burns says that he's sending government people down there to make sure that Texas complies with his order, So something's fishy about the whole deal. And I'll tell you what I think it is. I think that it's nothing more than a trap to get a lot of people stirred up who are fundamentalist, nationalists, militia people, and is to get them stirred up to go down there, and that way they'll have a big list of who their enemies are, And according to Sleepy Joe, really the enemy is the white Christian male. according to Joe and Joyce Reed, it's a white Christian male is the biggest threat to this country. And they say democracy. The way that they're running the admin is not a democracy. It's a banana republic, a single party banana republic. I didn't have any coffee this morning because my blood pressure was too high. And I'm just going to have a couple of sippy sips of coffee in my lucky Justin cup. Thank you, Justin. And I'll take my secondary blood pressure medicine in like a half hour. Somebody made a comment about one of my shirts having a mustard stain on the front. That's how old people make sure that we're putting the shirt on correctly in the right direction. Dr. Singh, how are you? Are you a medical doctor, or what kind of doctor are you? You're a vet. That's good. That's good. I like to watch that veterinary channel. The guy's from Romania, and he specializes in cats, and he's got a whole bunch of cool cat videos. Okay. Namaste. What language do you speak? Hindi? Or I know India's got like 29 different dialects, don't they? Hindi and English. Acha. Acha or sadhu? When you refer to the boss like G, how do you spell G? Well, I learned some phrases from working at the hotel and working with Man Raj. Like asking the boss to answer the phone. I was wondering how G is spelled. I know it's not just the letter G, is it? I know sentences like, please answer the phone. It's spelled G, but it's written G. Yeah. I know sentences like, please answer the phone. Aapke liye phone, krupya. Aapke liye phone. Let me see. Aapke liye phone, krupya. And krupya samakuru. Krupya samakuru. Please don't do that. I use that a lot. When I worked for the Kripya wo mat karu. Kripya wo mat karu. When I worked for the I did it respectfully. I know Indian culture, believe me. I've been around it for 12 years now. Now, man, Raj told me that in Indian culture, a full head of hair and a clean shaved face was the way you go to God. Have you ever heard that? I've never been to India. I worked for an Indian company. So the way it worked out was I'd had a terrible accident and I was semi crippled up. And there was only a few things that I could do after the accident. So I was looking in my area for a job. Going door to door. And all of the hotels are owned by Singh or Agera or Patel. All of the hotels in Maryland, in my area, are owned by Singh, Patel, or Agera. So I go and I knock on the door of this company that fabricates computer boards. And I was desperate for a job. And I was homeless, camping out at the Dodge dealership, which was closed. And the shop foreman was letting me camp out there overnight. So I didn't want to get arrested if somebody saw me in the Dodge dealership during the night. So I spent $10 and I got a hat that said security on the hat. And I made sure that I wore the hat that said security so that if the police or anybody peered through the glass and they saw me sitting in the vacant showroom, they would think that I was midnight security. So I did that for a year and a half. And ate with the homeless people down the block, ate the free homeless people food. And so I knocked on the door of this company that made computer parts for aerospace. and I had a background with CompUSA. So I noticed the man was Indian, and I said namaste, and namaste bye. And he was like, wow, that's cool. You speak a little bit of Hindi? And I was like, yes. So we started talking, and he said, well, let me get you a job application because I have this guy leaving in a week, and I need somebody in a week's time that can plot computer boards and take it from the order to CAD to CAM. So I was like, I can do the scratch page to CAD. CAM, I don't have any experience with. So he went in back to get and he knows about this now, so it's okay. He went in back to get the job application, and there was a magazine for the computer circuit industry. I forget the name of the magazine. And so I'm flipping through the magazine real quick, looking at all the articles. And I see this article for this new flying circuit tester. Now, for those of you who don't know how they used to test circuits, they would build a circuit board, and then they would put it in a dummy circuit and slide it in and see what lights lit up. If all the lights lit up, the circuit was good. But as circuits got more complex, you needed a better way of testing them quickly. And in back of the company were all these people with microscopes and magnifying glasses and the whole 9 yards. So anyway, I'm flipping through this periodical. I see this article for this flying circuit tester. And so he came in with the job application, and I put the magazine down, on the table next to me quickly, pushed it aside. And I told him, I said, well, what do you think about that new flying circuit tester? Isn't that something? And he said, you know about that? I said, oh, yeah. He said, well, we have one in back. It was like $250,000, something like that. You want to see it? I said, sure. So I go in back and say hi to everybody. And in any case, he's really taken by and filling out the job app was just a formality. So he was really taken by the fact that I spoke a little bit of Hindi, and that I was polite and articulate, and I knew about this flying circuit tester, from 5 minutes ago. So I go back and I meet everybody, and everybody's congenial and nice. And I get hired on the spot. And they started to have lunch. That's what it was. It was around lunchtime. And they invited me into the break room. And I don't know if most people know this culturally. Americans are used to a nice hour-long break where you really don't do much of anything. These people spread the table and put curry and rice and plantains and all of this stuff on the table. And it's a shared culture of sharing your food. So they shared the food with me, and I was very hungry, but they didn't sit down to eat. They ate standing up. And I thought that was very curious. And they ate like 10 minutes go by, and they're like, time to put the food away and clean the table up, and breaks over. 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the most. And man, they're back to work, plotting circuits and, back to work at warp 9. And I'm like, okay. So I sit down at the boss's desk, and in any case, I answered the phone. That's what happened next. The phone rang, and there wasn't anybody to answer it. And it was a very important call from Black & Decker or one of the space agencies, something like that, about an order. So I was like, gee, आपके लिए phone. I was like, I won't say the man's name. I was like, so-and-so, gee, आपके लिए phone कृपया, over the intercom. Gee, आपके लिए phone कृपया. So he picked up the phone and answered it from the warehouse. And man, at this time, I'm like on fire with these people, you know, working immediately, answering the phone, had lunch with them. And boss goes to California because he's relaxed about everything. He's found somebody now. And he goes to California, and this is like the next day. He goes to California on his trip. He's found a replacement. He's happy. He goes to California. We're in the CAD cam room, and we're feeding everything into the computer to tell the equipment how to cut the boards and all of that other stuff. So I'm learning CAM already. And there's this enormous printer in a black room and everything that prints out this enormous sheet that everything goes by. And there was a surge, which is very common in my area, because the power grid at the time was in the shape of a horseshoe, and they couldn't get license for this piece of land. I live in Laurel, Maryland, and this was way back when, about 10 years ago. So they couldn't get licensing for this one piece of land to complete the power grid. So it was always this part of the city had power, or this part, and there were, yeah, it's 2023 now. It was like 2011, 2012, you know. And so they were using really old equipment. I mean, computers with tape drives and floppy drives. For those of you that don't know how CAM works with a tape drive, is a tape goes along a reel and it feeds the commands to the CAM machine, and then the CAM machine cuts out the boards and all that other stuff in the process. So a surge happened and it burned out the main switchboard. Not a switchboard like a telephone, a modem switchboard. So everybody is freaking out because we had orders for Black & Decker and Rockwell and stuff for the space program for NASA, and everybody's freaking out. So I went and I got my camera and I took a picture, very detailed pictures of the circuit board that had burned out. And then I took masking tape and I labeled all of the wires, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, through like 24 circuits. And then I started to pull it apart. And man, the other employees freaked out. They freaked out. They said, Vil, what are you doing, man? If, the boss is going to fire you, you're not supposed to touch that, Vil, and I was getting a finger from everybody, Vil. So I go into the warehouse and there's stacks and stacks of this equipment. And the one switchboard was like an X500. So I found a newer version of it, which was like an X700. So I come back in with the new switching unit. And long story short, I put all of the wires back, plug it up, and it worked. Now, it needed to have software programming, it needed to update and everything. That I didn't know how to do at the time. But at least we got the equipment back up. And G called from California, and I didn't say anything to get him upset. You know, he said, "How is everything?" I said, "Everything's fine." Second day on the job. And then the other employees told him about how I had fixed the board. Now, the interesting thing was I just plugged the wires in, plugged them in, flipped the switch, went back to work. But one of the Indian gentlemen, young man, he dressed the wires and made them all neat to where they ran up the wall in square and plugged in and then came down and were in all of these little ties and things, just beautiful. He got the credit for making the switchboard operable with the software and making it look pretty. And I was good with that, But I had had radiation earlier for an issue with my abdomen, and I found that the chemicals in back really aggravated the cancer. And so I was in doubt whether I could keep the job, which I did for a while. But I had to leave because the job was so stressful that I couldn't keep my blood pressure. I'm the better part of a century old. I think I'm in pretty good shape for the way I look and everything. I'm very careful. I'm very careful about my health and my medicines and vitamins. But what I did learn about Indian culture when Sabji came back from California, he was interviewing another man for the warehouse. And I came in and I knocked 3 times on the door. And I asked them, would they like to take tea? And the man being interviewed looked at me like, "Are you crazy? You're not supposed to be talking to me." And Sabji looked at me and he was like, "Are you out of your mind? You're not supposed to be talking to him." And I learned Indian culture quickly about non-interference and not doing something unless you're asked. That and using the executive bathroom, because I was never shown the compound. And so I stumbled on Sabji's executive bathroom with a shower, and I started to use it, unbeknownst to me that I wasn't supposed to. I wasn't asked to. So in any case, one day I got up, ran to the bathroom because I had waited for the last minute because I was busy. We were always busy. And I only had 45 minutes a shot. I only had 45 minutes of time to design a board. And we're talking about figuring out whether it's going to be made of gold or silver and how many boards go into what dummy board. The originals come in different sizes. So you have to figure out the best configuration of turning the board to get the most cuts out of the basic materials. And then my boss was very brilliant. He taught me about silver migration and how rockets and planes can crash because of silver migration in the circuits. And he was so brilliant, he could look at a circuit and he would say, that circuit is going to silver migrate, and we'll do it this way. We'll route it this way. And then he'd get a call from the customer, "Why did you change our design?" And he would say, "Well, you haven't allowed for silver migration." Very brilliant brilliant man. And so they would say, well, we left that part of the board blank for future modifications. He said, well, when you get to the future, we'll worry about that. Yes, he's very brilliant, but a heavy drinker and very verbally abusive. And he would tell me, I had worked there for less than a week, and he was trying to explain Rose compliance, which is a ridiculous concept. It's a concept that a child might wander onto a circuit board and stick the circuit board in its mouth and get lead poisoning. So you can't use 10 lead circuits anymore. It's called Rose, ROHS, and it's a industry standard. Is there day? What do you mean, is there day where I live? I don't know what you mean. But it's a ridiculous standard, thinking that a child would grab a circuit board out of a plane and suck on it and get lead poisoning. But whatever, you know. Oh, it's daytime where I'm at. It's like 1 o'clock or 1:30 in the afternoon. I forget you're calling from India. So, in any case, there were times when I overstepped my boundaries because Boss G would leave. Oh, okay. So we're 12 hours apart. So do you have to go, doctor? But I would overstep my bounds because G would leave for the day. He would leave from like 9 o'clock in the morning, and then he'd come back at 5. Well, I got to go too because I'm in my wheelchair and the circulation gets cut off, so I got to go. It was wonderful talking to you. Can I tell you something really quick? When I would make the boss mad, I would sing this song, to make him laugh. I'd go, Maaf Karo, Maaf Karo. I'm always saying this to you. I made you mad, and I'm so sad. I beg your pardon, Maaf Karo, Maaf Karo, Maaf Karo. I'm always saying this to you. And then he'd start laughing. I mean, what could you do? But I had my Maaf Karo and my Maaf Ketia song. So it was a wonderful experience, and he still talks to me from time to time. I am wheelchair bound and bedridden, though. Haven't been out of my room for 5 years. So it was wonderful talking to you, doctor. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the night. And hopefully I'll talk to you again later. Pop out.